Well, welcome to another episode of the Positive Change podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about why thinking positive just isn't enough to be a successful entrepreneur. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Harmer, and you're about to discover new ways to go from overwhelm to thriving in your business and in your life by following your passions, pursuing your unique life purpose, and stepping fully into your infinite potential. You deserve to live your best life, a life filled with all of the clarity, courage, and commitment you need to be happy and to make a positive impact on the world. So get ready, because this podcast challenges society's expectations for what it means to be successful in life and in business, and invites you to grow beyond outdated assumptions for defining who you are. Welcome to the Positive Change podcast.
Well, welcome to another edition of the Positive Change podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk about why thinking positive just isn't enough to be a successful entrepreneur. During the week, I was doing some keyword searches, part of running a business, and looking through a range of topics. And what was fascinating to me is that motivation or inspiration, motivational quotes, positive quotes, quotes around positivity, and searches of the like generated in the US alone in the last month more than 1 million searches. Now, to put this into context, more than 1 million people in the US alone were searching for something about being more positive or more inspired or more motivated. And this was contexted or contrasted with other things I was looking for. So people looking for things like getting married or weddings generated about 100,000 searches in the US in the last month. Friendships, strong friendships, having good friendships, 250,000. Entrepreneurship, just over 370,000 searches in the last month. Starting a business, just over 60,000. So in contrast, people looking for more motivation, positivity, more inspiration, and specifically quotes of that nature far outweighed some of the other pretty common topics that most people or many people would search on the web. And this is the focus of my Positive Change 3X Effect program. This really helps entrepreneurs and business owners to thrive through disruption, to stay positive and optimistic and enthusiastic about what they do. And this is an incredibly important topic that I'm deeply passionate about, because research into entrepreneurship and small business and business ownership suggests that on average, between 30% and 50% of business owners at any time are feeling emotional or mental distress. Stress, anxiety, worry, depression, or other forms of mental or emotional unease. And what this suggests is that people in business, entrepreneurs, aren't the most healthy emotionally or mentally people in society. And this is deeply troubling to me, because there are so many wonderful opportunities to start and run your own business, particularly in today's society, where flexibility, the opportunity to work from anywhere, is prevalent. That we really want people who are in business and who are entrepreneurs to feel positive, optimistic, and flourishing in what they have chosen to do for their career and profession. Now, these overwhelmed entrepreneurs, these people who are stuck in self-doubt and worry and overwhelm and feeling lost, who have got to this point in time in their life and their career where they may feel like they just can't go on, literally, that they've tried everything and they just have no way out. They're feeling trapped. This is not a place in business that is going to result in people being successful. And there's a significant responsibility for those who are supporting entrepreneurs and who are entrepreneurs themselves to look in the mirror and see that there's a significant opportunity to do things differently. There is a significant opportunity to thrive through disruption. And that's really what this podcast is all about. So what's really going on here for entrepreneurs who, with all passion and enthusiasm, start their entrepreneurial venture and adventure in a way that has them think to themselves, I might and I can change the world. What happens for them to lose sight of this bigger picture? Well, there's several things really. And in my experience, having worked with hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs and thousands of people who are business owners and senior leaders in organizations and leaders of change, because entrepreneurship, after all, is about creating change, there are three key things that the overwhelmed entrepreneur, that entrepreneur who's feeling stuck, stressed, worried, anxious, and even depressed, is doing that is getting in the way of their success. The first and the most common is they just take on too much. They take on every bit of responsibility or accountability for their business without thinking about what their strengths and gifts are and how they then outsource or get support for those pieces or elements of the business that they just don't enjoy. And as a consequence of taking on too much, they constantly find themselves overwhelmed with the amount of activities that need to get done every single day. And that internal worry list, that to-do list, keeps turning over and over in their mind every day about the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and the next thing. And there's no mental or emotional reprieve to get clarity about what they might do differently or next. And a consequence, they're working all the time. Now, this may be you, and I know it was certainly me when I felt like the overwhelmed entrepreneur as well. I was working so much during the week and on weekends that I barely had enough time for my family, definitely not enough time for my friends, and exercise, personal well-being. Well, what was that? That was completely out the window. And as a consequence of not being able to balance the many life commitments we might have and want to dedicate our time to, we just can't switch off. Our mind is constantly racing about and towards the next thing. It's like we're addicted to not stopping. And this is a very common experience for the overall entrepreneur, that they take on too much because they think they might not have enough somewhere else down in their future. And they just keep saying yes and yes and yes and yes to anything and everything, and try to conserve their resources, both financial, time, emotional, money, relationships, for some other time, some other better future, without dedicating time to it right now. They also, as a consequence of that, and this is a very common thing when people start to get overwhelmed, is paradoxically, they stop asking for help. When we start to feel more overwhelmed in a certain domain of our life, and we don't want to admit that we can't cope or we might be failing, we tend not to ask for help from other people. Now, this is a significant thing happens at this point in time, because ultimately, if we don't ask for help, we can't get help, obviously. And we can start to feel isolated, that we're alone and no one really understands what we're going through. And in people not understanding what we're going through, of course, they can't help because they just don't understand. We lack that recognition or that validation or that support from other people. And as a consequence of trying to do it ourselves and not asking for help, our progress towards those things we most care about, our goals, our aspirations, our purpose, our vision, we start to falter in that way and don't feel like we're making progress. And this is a compounding effect, because as we continue to not feel like we're making progress, the more overwhelmed we become. So the lack of progress, more overwhelmed, lack of progress, and so on and so forth. And the final thing that happens when people don't, or they take on too much, or they don't say no, and then they don't ask for help, is they miss out. They fail to see all of those opportunities that are always before them to make it better. They lose out on those opportunities because they just don't see them. They don't see those opportunities to change something, to ask for help. They're so busy with their blinkers on, they don't see that they're missing out on life. They're missing out on opportunities to really thrive. in pursuing one of the things they committed to, creating changes for themselves and the people around them. It can feel like Groundhog Day, like they're stuck in a rut. And, in my own personal experience, when I was stuck in this place before I realized how to get out of it, is I started to resent the very thing that I was so committed to starting. And I resented the people around me for not offering their help when they didn't even know that I needed help. But there is a different way. There's an opportunity to focus on what motivates you. And I think this is one of the reasons why so many people, whether they be an entrepreneur or a business owner or a leader within a business or a change agent or being a leader in their family or with their friendship group, they start looking for things to motivate them or to inspire them or to feel more positive and optimistic in life. They search for that perfect quote, the thing that they can post on Facebook or Instagram or put on the fridge at home or put on the post-it note beside their desk. That one thing that will turn it all around. But it just doesn't work. And if you're in this place of being the overwhelmed entrepreneur, you already know this. You've already tried to find that magic bullet, that one thing, that perfect solution that's going to turn things all around. But there is another way. There's an opportunity to focus on what truly motivates you and what you committed to at your core when you started your entrepreneurial adventure. To find your natural flow, to build better relationships with your business, with your clients and customers, with your family and with your friends, to make a meaningful contribution to the people around you. The very reason we entrepreneurs start businesses is to start a business to create change, to make a difference, to make something better for people. We see a problem, we see a missed opportunity, and we step into the breach with all the courage and conviction we can find, and we start. And somewhere down the journey of entrepreneurship, we lose our way. So there are a number of things that we can do to get back on track towards thriving through disruption, to being that thriving entrepreneur that we aspired to become when we first started our adventure. We can take some meaningful steps to change the pathway from overwhelm to thriving. And the first step, the first example of doing this is to make time each day for yourself. To make time each day to pause and to stop and to gain clarity of what is the most important thing I can do today that's going to move the needle on what my greatest passion or commitment is. To take that time to pause, to slow down, and to connect with yourself. Connect with the moment. Connect with your immediate and your broader environment. We can't change something that we're not aware of. If we're not even aware in the moment that we're overwhelmed because we're so busy being and doing overwhelm, how do we know the change is possible if we don't take a moment to acknowledge where we are? To name that moment or name the present experience. Because it's actually in naming and acknowledging that experience that change can commence. Until we acknowledge where we are, we have absolutely no hope of moving or transitioning or transforming to somewhere else. Step number 2 is to focus on what's working or focus on what you love. Now, when we pause and we become present and we find stillness for a period of time each day, we can start to notice again what we love or what's working. Now, I've done this activity many times with a range of audiences, both in my coaching as well as with executive teams. And if I was to say to them, can you give me 10 things right now in your business or in your life that isn't working, that you're unhappy with? Most people will be pretty quick, like within 60 seconds, maybe less, be able to give me a list of 10 things, 20 things that just aren't working in their life or their work or their friendships or in some other activity they're doing. But for the entrepreneur, they can certainly tell you what's not working about their business or about the market. Now, if you were to then ask them, can you give me 10 things that are working in your business, in your life, in your relationships? Now, this may take more than 60 seconds to find, particularly when the entrepreneur is feeling overwhelmed. But if you are patient enough and pause long enough and continue to invite the entrepreneur to find what are the 10 things that are working or the 20 things, they'll be able to find them. They will definitely be able to find those 10 or 20 things that are working. Now, what does this suggest? If a person, when asked what's not working, they can find 10 things, and if they can find what is working, they can find 10 things. What does this suggest? Well, it suggests that positivity and negativity are always present in equal measure. But we tend not to look for the positive when we're feeling overwhelmed. So pausing and intentionally focusing on what's working gives you the opportunity to notice what's positive and to reconnect with the natural flow, your own natural success in your business, and to feel more connected with its possibilities. Now, the third step is to focus and to follow that positive energy. One of my mentors, when I was first starting out in my business, when I was really struggling to work out where my client was, who the market was, how to make that fit and connection, he said to me one day, Richard, just follow the positive energy. The answer will always be at the end of that rainbow. Follow that positive energy. Focus on what brings you joy. Follow that energy. Focus on those opportunities and follow those opportunities where you get a chance or the opportunity to grow. Because that positive energy is likely to be aligned with what comes naturally to you and what your strengths are. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that those things that also need to happen in business that aren't where the positive energy just fall over. Well, some of them may, because they may not be relevant, but simply highlights to you that some things you would need to outsource to others. Now, if you're saving your resources for another day, for that rainy day, financial or time or otherwise, let me tell you, and this may be, this was a lesson, took me a while to learn, but if you are spending your emotional and mental energy on stuff you don't enjoy, it is taking away the fuel you need to do the stuff you do enjoy. And it's better to create opportunities for other people to follow their passions. That is the stuff you don't like, basically, so that you can follow your passions. And through that, we have great opportunity to thrive through disruption. So those 3 steps again. Number 1, take the time each day to pause and sit in stillness and reconnect with yourself and reconnect with the moment. Step number 2 is, in pausing, pay attention to what's working. Pay attention to what you love. And third, follow the positive energy. So in my Positive Change 3X Effect program, the program that I created to really help entrepreneurs, business owners, and change makers thrive through disruption, I go into how to do this in a lot more detail. But let me just give you one suggestion for step number 1, pause. Now, there are many things I share within my program about how you can pause and find more clarity in the moments of your day in order to create more positivity and more enthusiasm. Take those moments beyond just reading the positive quote and really connecting with that infinite well of positivity within you. There's infinite strategies or approaches in my program, but let me just show you one that I really love. It's a very, very simple one. And if you were to implement this one today, like straight after listening to this podcast or watching this video, whichever way you're consuming this particular episode of my podcast, if you were to do this immediately after pressing stop, I can guarantee you that you will feel better about your work tomorrow. And that one thing you can do, and you can do it right now, is take out your diary, take out your calendar, open up your phone's diary. Block out 10 minutes every morning for the next 30 days. Now, I want you to block out that 10 minutes when you start work, whatever time that might be for you. Like for me personally, that's about 8 a.m. in the morning usually. But from 8 a.m. until 8:10 a.m., I block out what I call silence time. Before I allow anything else in my business to start, or before I allow my day to start to be influenced by what other people's expectations might be, I choose myself first. As an entrepreneur, it is critically important, and as a thriving entrepreneur, to choose yourself first. If you can't choose yourself first, then you're not likely to choose the business either. And you're not choosing the client or your customer. Choose yourself first. So block out in your diary 10 minutes at the start of each day when you start work, whenever you clock on. And that first 10 minutes, sit in silence. Do nothing. Don't plan the day. Don't start that first activity. Don't pick up the phone and ring somebody. Don't respond to that first email. Just stop. Remove distractions. And in that 10-minute of silent time, we will let all thoughts about what you need to be doing take a break and to be in the moment. Choose how you want to feel about your day. Now, of course, this could be anything, but I would suggest you choose how you want to feel about your day in a way that is positive and inspiring. I want to feel deeply connected to the activities I care about today. I want to bring love and joy to every interaction I have with others. I want to feel deeply connected to the importance of what I'm doing. And then in choosing how you want to be for your day, identify the number one emotion you would like to experience as your working day concludes. Contentment, joy, peace, spaciousness, stillness, whatever that might be. The start of each day for 10 minutes, take the full 10 minutes to slow down, allow thoughts to drop away and be still. Allow your inner clarity, your inner intuition, your inner resourcefulness to shine forth within you. Choose how you want to experience your day and name the emotion that you would like to experience at the end of your day. And when that 10 minutes is up, you're up and about doing whatever you need to do next. But at least you then have an anchor point for how you want to experience your day before your day gets underway. And this is incredibly important to maintain positivity, enthusiasm, optimism, and motivation throughout your days, not losing focus with how you want it to be, not losing focus with what you choose your day to be about. And this marks a significant difference between the overwhelmed entrepreneur and the thriving entrepreneur. The overwhelmed entrepreneur allows their day to control them. The thriving entrepreneur controls their day. So I teach a lot more about this in my Positive Change 3X Effect program, my program that really helps entrepreneurs, business owners, and change makers thrive through disruption. Now, if you want to learn more about this program, follow me on Facebook, follow or subscribe to the link below on this YouTube channel, listen to my podcast, visit my website, sign up for my newsletter. There's plenty of options. I'd love to hear more from you about what you thought about this particular episode and how it helps you to be a thriving entrepreneur. See you soon.
Hi, and thank you so much for checking out another episode of the Positive Change Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe using the button below, and make sure you also click the bell icon to get notified every time we release a new episode. If you're looking for the show notes for this episode, we have them in the link underneath, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and other offers that we drop from time to time to help you go from overwhelmed to thriving in pursuing your best life. So go ahead and check out this episode's show notes if you're interested. And thank you so much for tuning into the Positive Change Podcast.